The Sangre de Cristo Conspiracy. Chapter 1. An Ill Wind from the Mountains. The wind, a restless spirit off the high peaks of the Sangre de Cristo, carried the scent of pine and something else that morning. Something acrid and unsettling. It whispered through the narrow, dusty lanes of Taos, rattling the loosely hung shutters of the adobe homes and stirring the fine red earth into miniature whirlwinds. It was a wind that spoke of change, of secrets disturbed, and it found its way to the very heart of the Montoya hacienda, 3 miles north of the bustling plaza. Inside the thick-walled compound, silence reigned. A heavy, unnatural stillness that was far more alarming than the usual morning clatter of servants and livestock. Maria, a young woman of Puebloan descent who had served the Montoya household since she was a girl, felt it first. Her hand, midway to knocking on the heavy door of Don Carlos Montoya's study, froze. The dawn chorus of roosters had long faded, and the sun was beginning its earnest climb. Yet no sound came from within. No booming laugh, no impatient calls for coffee, no rustle of official papers. Don Carlos, the newly appointed Administrador de Aduanas, the customs official of the Taos district, was a man of routine and robust appetites. His silence was a gaping hole in the fabric of the morning. Maria's heart, already uneasy from the oppressive quiet, began to thrum a nervous rhythm against her ribs. She called out, a voice a little too loud in the stillness. "Don Carlos? Patron? Your coffee is ready?" Only the wind answered. Sighing through the vigas overhead, she pushed the door. It wasn't latched. It swung inward with a mournful creak, revealing the usually meticulously ordered study in a state of disarray that mirrored the chaos suddenly churning in her stomach. Papers, official ledgers, trade manifests, and personal correspondence were strewn across the floor as if a furious gust had torn through the room. A heavy oak chair lay on its side, its carved legs pointing accusingly towards the ceiling. And then she saw him. Don Carlos Montoya lay sprawled near his massive desk, his vibrant poncho, usually a bold statement of his authority, now soaked a ghastly, darker crimson. His eyes, wide and unseeing, stared up at the whitewashed ceiling, a mask of surprise and betrayal etched onto his patrician features. A dark, almost black stain spread across his chest, the source of the lifeblood that had seeped into the earthen floor. Maria stifled a scream, her hand flying to her mouth, the clay cup of coffee slipping from her other hand to shatter on the tiles. The sound like a gunshot in the terrifying silence. The acrid smell she'd noted on the wind was stronger here, the coppery tang of blood mixed with the faint lingering scent of gunpowder. Ay, Dios mío. And something else. Something metallic and cold. Her gaze, frantic now, swept the room. The heavy strong box beneath the desk, where Don Carlos was known to keep significant sums of tax revenue before its transport to Santa Fe, was ajar, its iron door hanging open like a violated tomb. It was empty. But it wasn't just the missing silver pesos that sent a fresh wave of terror through her. Don Carlos had spoken in hushed, excited tones in recent weeks of something far more significant than mere tax receipts. He'd been uncharacteristically jovial, hinting at a discovery that would secure the future of the territory, a treasure that would solidify Mexico's fledgling grip on this remote northern frontier. He had called it the Sangre de Cristo cache, a legendary hoard of Spanish gold and religious artifacts, lost for over a century now, he claimed, found. It was meant for Santa Fe, for the governor himself. Maria backed away, her breath coming in ragged gasps. This was more than a robbery gone wrong. The air in the room was thick with a violence that felt targeted, personal. The wind, now gusting more strongly, slammed the study door shut, plunging her into near darkness and sealing her in with the dead man. This time, she did scream. The news, carried by a terrified Maria, who had fled the hacienda on a burro as if chased by demons, hit the Taos Plaza like a physical blow. It spread from the knot of early risers at the well to the vendors setting up their meager stalls, to the blacksmith shop where the clang of hammer on anvil momentarily ceased. Don Carlos Montoya, murdered. The aduana strongbox, empty. Whispers followed, dark and venomous. Los Yankees, Americanos. The word hissed through the crowd like a striking snake. These brash, uncouth traders from the east, flooding into the territory since the Santa Fe Trail had been thrown open 4 years prior, had long chafed under Montoya's diligent taxation. They made no secret of their disdain for Mexican authority. Had their resentment finally boiled over into bloodshed? At Elena Vasquez's trading post, a sprawling adobe structure that anchored one corner of the plaza, the news arrived with a frantic thud of boots and a raised voice. Elena, a woman of 29, whose composed demeanor and shrewd eyes belied a will of iron, was overseeing the unloading of a fresh consignment of beaver pelts from a taciturn mountain man. Elena, did you hear? It was young Pedro, the alcalde's son, his face pale and his eyes wide. Don Carlos, he's been killed, murdered in his own home. Elena's hand, deftly counting the pelts, stilled. Her dark eyes, usually missing nothing, fixed on Pedro's face. Murdered? Don Carlos Montoya? Sí, and they say it was the Americanos. Pedro lowered his voice, glancing nervously at the towering mountain man beside Elena, whose weathered face remained impassive beneath a wide-brimmed hat. They say the strongbox was emptied, all the tax silver gone. Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. Don Carlos had been a complex man, officious, sometimes arrogant, but not inherently evil. He had been a guest at her trading post numerous times, negotiating with American traders under her watchful eye. His presence a constant reminder of the shifting powers in this land. His death would throw a spark onto the already tender, dry relations between the Mexican authorities and the American interlopers. She also knew, as others did, that Don Carlos had been obsessed with more than just customs duties. He'd spoken to her in confidence, his voice low and excited, about the Sangre de Cristo cache. He believed its recovery would make him a hero of the new republic. Elena had listened, as she always did, filing the information away. Knowledge, in Taos, was a currency more valuable than silver or gold. "Who found him?" she asked, her voice calm, cutting through Pedro's agitation. His servant Maria. She is with my father now, the alcalde. He is in an uproar. He speaks of sending riders to the outlying settlements, of calling up the militia. Elena's gaze drifted towards the Sangre de Cristo mountains, their peaks already blushing with the dawn light. The Blood of Christ mountains. Now, they seemed to live up to their name in a new, more sinister way. The treasure, if it truly existed and had been found, was a dangerous lure. The murder weapon, Pedro hadn't mentioned, but Elena had heard tales from the trappers about the distinctive crack of a Hawken rifle. A sound increasingly common in the high valleys where the beaver thrived. The mountain man beside her, who had remained silent through the exchange, finally spoke, his voice a low rumble. "Trouble, Elena. Big trouble." She met his gaze. Eli, Bear Thompson. He was a leader among the American trappers, a man who knew the mountains like the back of his hand, a man whose loyalty was first to his own kind, and then to the wild, untamed land itself. If suspicion fell on the Americans, men like Thompson would be caught in the crosshairs. "Indeed, Bear," she murmured. "A storm is coming." In his modest office, a short distance from the main plaza, Alcalde Juan Bautista Vigil paced like a caged jaguar. He was a stout man, his face flushed, his usual air of cautious authority replaced by a volatile mix of fury and fear. Maria, wrapped in a rough blanket, sat huddled on a bench, still trembling, recounting her horrific discovery for the third time. "And you saw no one? Heard no one leave?" The alcalde pressed, his voice sharp. "No," Maria shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, señor. Only the wind and the emptiness." The alcalde slammed his fist on the desk. "The emptiness! The strong box raided! This is the work of bandits, of godless Americano traders who resent paying their dues to the Republic." He whirled on his deputy, a nervous young man named Ignacio. "Gather a posse. We will ride to every American camp within a day's journey. We will search every wagon, every pack mule. These murderers will be found." Ignacio swallowed hard. "Señor Alcalde, to accuse the Americans so broadly, it could provoke..." "Provoke what? More disrespect, more lawlessness. Don Carlos was an official of the government. His murder is an attack on Mexico itself." Yet, even as he blustered, a kernel of doubt, cold and hard, settled in the alcalde's gut. Montoya had been ambitious. He had hinted at dealings that went beyond simple customs collection, and the matter of the Harkin rifle. It was a detail Maria had provided, a description of the wound that Ignacio had relayed from his first hurried visit to the hacienda. A large caliber hole, clean through. Many mountain men carried such weapons. The alcalde knew his small contingent of local militia was ill-equipped to handle a full-blown investigation, especially one with such explosive potential. Taos was a frontier town, teetering on the edge of civilization. The authority of Santa Fe, though only 70 miles south, often felt like a world away. He stopped his pacing, his mind racing. There was protocol for such matters. The murder of a federal official demanded a higher authority. "Ignacio," his voice suddenly more measured, though still tight with anger. "Forget the posse for now. You will ride. Ride south. Ride like the devil is on your heels." "To Santa Fe, senor?" "Si. Find Marshal Samuel Hartwell. Tell him what has happened. Tell him Don Carlos Montoya has been murdered, and the stability of this entire valley hangs by the thread. Tell him to come to Taos, now." The alcalde walked to the window, staring out the formidable peaks of the Sangre de Cristo, now fully illuminated. Their rugged slopes, seemingly indifferent to the turmoil brewing at their feet. An ill wind had indeed blown from those mountains, he thought, and it carried the stench of betrayal, greed, and death, and he feared this was only the beginning.